Hello everyone, my name is Nexos Floof, and it is so good to see you after this small little, totally not a break. It totally wasn't a break. But hey, I have a nice little channel update and a very interesting topic to talk about today that I hope you will enjoy. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Roll that intro. Whoop. Whoop. Got your wench up on my lap and she's singing like a bard. Ooh. Ooh, that was a nice crisp one. I hope that came up over the mic. Hi everyone, my name is Nexos Floof. I am one of, if not the best GSC player in the world, and I have been away for some time. And to be very blunt with it and right out direct, I abandoned the cult for a little bit. I know, it's insane. I'm the one who's always supposed to be on this faction. I'm the one to where if I can't make it work, God, GSC's gotta be dead, or at least that's how it feels from the messages that people send me when I don't actually bring GSC to an event. Now, with that being said, I think there's a good amount of discussions to be had about that I wanted to talk about today in the topic of what is a faction specialist and meta chaser, right? Or meta hopper, army hopper, however you want to describe it. There's probably a term that doesn't sound like you're trying to be an asshole to someone, but I haven't found it yet. So today's topic, this has to center around a lot of the Las Vegas Teams tournament. I went with a German team, Zugzwang, and I say German team in quotations because my good friend Durante, or as I like to call him, Glynaseer, was the one that put the team together. We had talked about this at Cali Cup, where I had my unfortunate gallbladder exploding, taking me out of rounds 5 and 6, not out of the tournament. I came back. But he talked about putting a dream team together about me, Celeste Lurch, Nemo, or Wesley St. Hines, for those that don't have a funny bone. And then we were going to figure out a fifth. We had some strong contenders that we were thinking about. We ended up going with one of the nicest men that I've ever known, Alex Pina, a great guy who just genuinely very nice individual. 10 out of 10, would recommend hanging out with them. Big chiller energy, as I like to describe. But we had this dream team of 5s. Now some things did happen to where Nemo had to drop, and we picked up someone who is also going to be part of a subject of this video today, Isaac Chirata. A, to me, well-known online TTS player. They do kind of tend to meta hop a little bit, but they are one of the most experienced teams players that I've seen in a while, mostly because they run an online tournament that I would like to recommend people trying out, Path to Victory, an 8-man teams event that's hosted on TTS on their own little Discord. And one of my favorite things that Isaac will do is in just about every tournament, he will enter himself as his own team of 8. And I believe half the time the team will be called, "Are you really going to lose to just one guy?" And it's very fun. He will play 8 different armies and a lot of times beat most of the teams he plays into. And there's something to be said for that, right? Now, to get over into the overall topic of today, I didn't take GSC. I took Admech, the Adeptus Mechanicus, and before you try and call me a meta hopper, because I only picked him up because Sieg's won, I've been sitting on 6, probably, close. What's my collection at? It's probably closer to 7k. New phone, right? I don't have my collections anymore. I would say about 6,500 of Admech that I've had for a good while now. Fully painted, actually. It's a nice monochrome scheme. It's very cool. But I decided that I wanted to try Admech because I felt they were the stronger choice in this decision. And while I don't think there was going to be anyone there on GSC that could beat me, if that makes sense. Basically, I felt like if I went there with GSC, I would be the top performing GSC. With that being said, however, I think even there, the matchups that we felt was necessary for me to go into, GSC wasn't good into. We wanted an extra answer for Vitrix, and we wanted an extra answer for Grizzled, right? And just about everything else outside of that in the meta is fine, it's cute, but those are the two big boogeymen, right? Any team that's trying to seriously compete and seriously go for first is bringing those two teams. I say that, and then you look at Art of War, but I digress. So, with that being said, I had recently finished up the majority of my Admech because a friend of mine had opened their game store called Bonfire Games over here in like the Sacramento, Antelope kind of area. I'll throw the address around here somewhere. Genuinely one of the nicest and best places I've been to. I would, if you were in the NorCal area, I would definitely recommend giving this place a shop and just saying hi, Floof sent me. But so I digress. Story time. I finished my Admech because I want to start playing games at the shop. A lot of new people are there. Not a lot of people do know me, but people do talk about me a bit. I am the best GSC player in the US. So I felt like people might get a little intimidated if they play into my GSC. So I pick Admech up. This is a long way of saying I had a couple weeks experience with the army specifically, and I felt, hey, Admech's really good. I can take them and do my best to pilot them to the efficiency that I pilot GSC, not be a hindrance to the team, and take kind of a wild list that not a lot of people will really know how to play into. And the list I decided on was a Halo's Creed double Cataphron build, to where I had a brick of destroyers, I had a brick of breachers. I had been testing around if I was what enhancements were going where, if they were really actually worth their points, and then basically what my chaff was around that. I had a 3-man of Last Chickens, and basically those are my 3 big shooting units, and I'm trying to play the rest of the game with everything around it, right? Now, my GSC friends, I'm not going to get too much into how Admech plays today. In fact, I'll let you know right out the gate, I'm not even going to go look it up. I think I was the worst performing Admech there. If you look here at this little, oh god, it hurts. That many reds hurts to see. My eyes, good lord. I didn't do well. I didn't do well at all. I think a couple of it was once or twice we needed me to like jump on a grenade so that the rest of the matrix could look good and my teammates could just pull out the win, which ended up working for most of our rounds. And then there was one matchup specifically into Subterranean Assault that was a combination of not understanding the matchup, misplaying a couple units, and then also just getting diced. But that's not to detract from my opponent being good and capitalizing on that, of course, right? I can mess up as much as anyone, but it takes a good opponent to, you know, be able to push through that, right? And get the score diff. But I digress. Lo and behold, all this to say, I did not perform that well. And I want to compare this to, and they're never going to let me live this down, but I am going to give them their flowers when they do deserve them. Our friend Isaac Tirada. Our friend Isaac Tirada is a generalist player. I think with how much he swaps around, Isaac is able to understand what armies you do need like a considerable amount of practice and training into to be able to pilot them effectively, and what armies you can kind of just plug and play. Not to say that certain armies totally aren't fucking easy and you're boosted if you play them, but you know, he is a fan of swapping between, you know, Chaos Knights and Ultramarines and, you know, now Guard, but you know, I digress. I'm not throwing any stones at those factions. But I think something that should have been my first alert was we had recommended Emperor's Children at one point, and Isaac just very cleanly stated, like, I don't feel comfortable playing that. I haven't played them for a month, and thusly I feel too rusty to be able to take them to a teams event. And hey, there's a good thing to understand there of this faction is a little bit more in depth. Its matrix is a bit more particular and it might be a bit more fragile. I don't feel strong enough to know its matchups or know how to pilot through maybe the bad matchups and, you know, blunt in the case to where I'm needed to. So I think it would be better to where even if the power level is lower, I go on something else. Now we went and put him on Grizzled Veterans, which is the power scaling is much higher, but also is a bit simpler, right? Gun, gun shoot. With that being said, we can now look at my picks. We were worried that while I could perform best on GSC, Admech is overall a better army. So in that case, maybe we take the risk and have me pilot something that's a bit more difficult to play, but has a better overall power level. That being said, I took a very weird build, and I think it's good. Genuinely, I had played the double Cataphron brick for about 2 weeks. I'm gonna put a little note in there that we're gonna come back to in a second, and it felt good in the games that I did play it. It felt like if my opponent just disrespects me and puts their army on the table, I walk out and I say, die. And that's pretty simple, right? Now, that being said, I will cycle back to I had played it for 2 weeks. And I'm not saying like I'm not playing like Nemo to where I'm playing 30 games a day. I had played about 5 games per week, 4 games per week, and I felt that there was something there. But as a faction specialist, I did not realize one of the pitfalls of switching an army, which is there is so much information that you don't know, and there is so much information as a specialist that you don't know that you know, if that makes sense. One of the big things was, if you are at all into any competitive teams play, you know about a matrix. Matrix is a grid of, like, in this place it was 5, so we would put our 5 teams on the side, and then we have 5 columns, which is the enemy team's armies. And then we would look through and they would say, in this game, if they're putting you on your board or you're putting them on yours or whatever the hell is going on, what do you think your optimal score is going to be? And that's how you can kind of try and win the game before any dice are rolled, right? If I'm in a roll to where, wow, everyone loses to this army, but everyone else is super, like, they're gonna be banging 20s off of all these other ones. Maybe I just go here, I go into this matchup and I lose, and I just try not to lose super hard, and then that will allow the rest of my team to go get all these points. They get the 55, maybe they get the 50, and hey, the 5 points I got brings us over the edge. Hey, we win the round, right? That's great. That's what you want to do. With GSC, I know my matrix into anything. I know it into World Eaters, I know it into Vitrix, I know it into Guard, I know it into Scintillating Legion, I know it into anything that you can name. I can tell you the play pattern I need to be able to win and how much I'm going to win by. When I looked at these matrices, it wasn't even that I was like, didn't know. It's that I was honestly not even realizing it. I was just throwing darts at a dartboard, and I wasn't even correct half the time. There was two matrices to where I thought I was going to be good, and it ended up being a pretty bad matchup. There was one to where I thought I was going to be good, but got dice, so that's always an underperforming score. And then there's twice where I thought, you know, it was going to be terrible, and I actually did pretty well. And I knew the army list, but I didn't know how that list or how Admech interacts with the overall game as a whole. There were so many things to where, yeah, I had played like 10 games with the list. There's more than 10 factions in 40k. What's my matchup into Grey Knights? What's my matchup into Death Guard? What's it into Emperor's Children? What is it into Jukari? What is it into Guard? What is it into Vitrix? Like, I don't know these things, right? But I know enough about GSC to where I'm able to, you know, say, here's like the expected output for Neos. Here's the way I could slow them down. Okay, I can't kill them, but I know the route to take to where I can just stall them out. I don't know that with Admech, right? So there's going to be armies that are a bit more finicky and require a lot more testing and a lot more experience to be able to excel at them at the rate as, to be honest, excelling with something like Ultramarines. Let's be honest. Let's be real honest right now. Some armies, Ultramarines and sometimes Guard, are a lot easier than other armies, right? You have to balance a lot less stuff, And sometimes you just kind of go, I walk forward and I have a 2-up with Armor of Contempt. You don't kill me. Cool, great. Die. Right? I'm not wrong. So, with that being said, there was a lot of changes that I was not ready for. And just a lot of tools that I didn't have and didn't learn to appropriately compensate for, right? I knew how to use Patraxi, but balancing Patraxi with being basically the only unit that has grenades in this entire army, why doesn't Admech have grenades? They can't. What? They're inventing everything. They can't make a sphere that goes boom. I'm sorry, I'm getting tilted. Going from an army-wide deep strike and army-wide basically everything has grenades to your bats deep strike and your bats have grenades, and that's kind of it. And everything else is kind of walking up the board and honestly shooting and playing fundamental 40k, right? As a GSC player that likes to break the rules and have all of the things that I want to do be able to be done, fundamental 40k isn't my strongest suit. No, I wouldn't say that. I can still outplay most people in fundamental 40k, but there's so many tools that I rely on in my GSC play, and I hadn't adapted yet to Admech play, right? And there is a responsibility in understanding that, right? That being said, once again, you can shift factions a lot. People do it all the time, especially with armies that tend to be, maybe they are just as complex, but they play similarly enough that you can kind of just shift your brain over a little bit, right? Like playing Blood Angels versus playing World Eaters isn't that different. You're melee armies that are running at people, right? Whereas, you know, playing Orcs versus playing Drukhari, sure, you might be melee armies, but there might be a big enough difference to where you need that time, right? So, what am I getting at here? Well, one, I'm a bad Admech player. I do want to get better. I do very much want to get better. I think I'm going to stick with Admech for a bit. I'm still going to be playing GSC a lot, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to be, now that I've taken a little bit of time to figure out where I'm going with Admech, like, I'm going to be coming back to GSC. Don't worry, I'm not abandoning the faction. It's just I have a puzzle in front of me, and it'd be really cool if I could learn how to do that puzzle as well as the GSC puzzle. If I can balance both very complicated armies and learn how to play both of them, I think that's something that's going to benefit me in the long run. I also have Tyranids, and that's a third whole other cake, right? That I gotta figure out how to eat. Luckily, because of my wife, I've gotten really good at eating cake. So moving forward, GC content is still going to be coming out. I had to take a small little break because one, prepping for LVTT, which I hope you understand, but also a big announcement to where I'll save for the very end of the video. And just life being life, right? This is a hobby. I'm sure everyone understands that. There are going to be times where I can't fully commit to this, but this is a video to where, hey, I'm going to be doing this a lot more often now, as well as working with some people to where I might be doing some written content for people that be on the lookout for. When that actually comes out, I'll throw out a video and let you guys know. On top of that, yeah, I don't know, Admech was fun. The double breacher build, or the double Cataphron build, was super nice. You are able to work around their slow movement, but you kind of have to baby them in doing so, and that leads to a very fragile list to where some armies can just punch you in the face, right? And you're just like, ow, that hurt a little bit more than I wanted it to. I'm just gonna die now. And yeah, so I had to learn that. I think going forward, I might try more balanced builds. I do like breachers themselves. They're very expensive, but crit 5, full rerolls, my beloved. And damage 3 weapons. God, it's like I'm back in 9th edition again with actually good seismic cannons. Please just take me back. I just want to be back. Anyways, I digress. Whatever you decide to be in this game, you can be someone who's like, I have 20 armies and I'm going to play a variety of them, and I'm going to hop around and I'm going to try and play a different army at any event. Go for it. That's totally fine. There's going to be times to where you are not going to be able to pilot an army as effectively as you would if you had mainlined an army, of course. But in doing so, in trading and moving around so much, I think the fundamentals of your play get so strong that you end up actually playing cleaner 40k through it, if that makes sense, because you always have to be open to your tools changing, right? Things being different, and just constantly being on the ball and understanding what tools you have to fix a situation, right? Versus being someone like me to where you are a faction specialist. You know your tools, you have your 6 tools, maybe your 7 or 8, however you want to do this little mental image. And not only do you know how to use those tools, you know how to use them to max efficiency. Now, there's going to be some jobs that you aren't going to be able to do them as well because your tools just aren't fit for that job. But in that same vein, you're going to be the person that knows how to maybe use a tool for not its intended purpose, but in a way that's still going to help you do that job, right? A screwdriver can be a hammer if you swing it hard enough. Not for every nail, but you know, for the side of someone's head. You know, I don't think one is stronger than the other. I think they are their own types of players, and each one has pros and each one has cons. I think that people like Isaac are wonderful to have as your filler, in terms of you have, like, to be honest, we'll put it like this, the greedier players, right? Of, hey, I have CSM and I only have CSM. So if you're putting me on this 8-man team, guess what I'm playing? Probably CSM, right? Or me, to where I'm only probably going to do GSC, to where it's either you got host, or if we don't have a tier 1 player, maybe final day, right? Boom. You have all these people picking their slots, and then you have the jack of all trades person being able to go, hey, we don't really have like a good gun line that we can first defend with. I'm going to take guard, or I'm going to take Tau, right? They both need to be able to operate. And I think there's strengths to both. I think there's downsides to both. And I'm in love with the fact that, like, every couple months you really get to not only see, because obviously we knew faction specialists and jack of all trades players were like a thing, right? But seeing them, like, how it interacts with the game as a whole and how it actually had a lasting effect on our team, like, that was very cool to see. I got shit on and lost 4 games. I went 1-4. I haven't gone a 1-4 ever, but technically it's a teams event, so we went 4-1. Now, did we finish 6th? Technically, yes, but that's because they did amount of wins versus win paths. So I believe the person that took 4th was like the guys we beat in round 2, which is just a little weird, because if you go amount of wins, kind of favoring people who lose earlier on, because then they'll have I digress. Anyways, that is not to take away from Florida Monsters or Lobsters or whoever was in front of us. End of the day, going into round 5, it was Art of War International, Art of War Coolcar, and Zugzwang. And that's pretty cool. And you want to know the fun thing about Zugzwang? Here's that funny little announcement that I said I'd get to at the end. Zugzwang is filled with advisors and academy members for Team USA. I haven't put this out, but I am now an advisor for my country. For my country's Warhammer 40,000 team. Do I love my country? There's some things I wish we didn't do, but I'm someone who wants to see my country do the best that it can and live up to, you know, what I was told it was. With that being said, that's a little bit deeper than probably what is allowed in a funny little video about Warhammer 40,000, but I think we can tell where I'm getting at. Anyways, I'm an advisor. The team brought me on specifically to talk about GSC. There's some context around it. I'm not going to give away too much, but on that as well, you have Durante, or once again, as I like to call him, Glenn, and Alex Pina are both Academy members, and I genuinely am, like, incredibly excited for them. We all applied at the same time. I kind of thought I was gonna get an academy, but you know, apparently my hair too curly, my vibes too good, my lobster too buttery, my steak too juicy. You know, they just couldn't handle it. So I'm just an advisor this year. That's totally fine. You know, my seat will be waiting for me. I'm not coping at all. Anyways, they're both academy. I'm an advisor, and I have it in very good faith. John, if you're watching, people who vote on this, if you're watching, that you will do the correct thing and also add Celeste Lorch and Isaac Terada onto the advisor committee as well, because they know what they're talking about very, very much. Isaac's a little bit of a shitter, but you know, you gotta take what you can get, right? I think both of them are going to get through the application process for advisor as well. I look forward to it. In my mind, going into that round 5, it was the new guard versus the old guard, in my opinion. I say that as almost a 30-year-old adult. I know the asterisk on a new guard, but a lot of them are in their young 20s, okay, so whatever. Whichever team we paired into, it was going to be people who have all started for Team USA. Everyone there has played for Team USA for the most part. There might be one or two that haven't, but it's a bunch of enfranchised Team USA members. And you have the squad that is the new guys on the block. We're the fresh meat, right? We're getting beat to hell. We're getting beat to hell in that server, but we're learning, and we got to them. And for just a little bit in that round, we had you worried. You did have to tell people to push. And you know what? Isaac even took a game off someone. I didn't take a game off someone. Pope put me into the dirt. But we had a good time. We got to touch his butt. And I'm very proud of where we got and the performance that we showed. Very much looking forward to what we are going to be able to do in this next year. I am looking forward to being able to help my country's team at WTC in any way that I can, and hopefully one day being able to represent them. I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. So yeah, I have possibly a new writing job. I am a proud member of Team USA as an advisor, so basically as like an intern / coach. And I am proud to return to the cult, to my humble faction, because good lord, get me the fuck away from Admech for at least like a couple weeks before I actually take this to a tournament. What was I thinking? Good heavens, this faction's difficult. So is GSC, but I digress. And yeah, I will say, if you also like Team USA, would like coaching and special advice and learn how to play this game, well, guess what? You can always DM me through Discord. Once again, I will put a link to the channel, the server that I do run. There's a couple cobwebs in there I gotta clear out. Sorry, I haven't been paying that much attention. I apologize. But if you would like any type of coaching or anything like that, reach out to me. Rates are pretty standard. I charge like 40 bucks an hour, and then like if you want to do an exhibition game to where we play, or I review your gameplay or anything like that, that's about $130 for about 4 hours. And yeah, I hope you all have a lovely day. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm looking forward to bringing you some actual strategic content next time I am able to, hopefully here within like 1 or 2 days. I'm gonna start taking this a lot more seriously. So thank you all so much. I love you. Goodbye. Go change your shorts. You've been sitting in that for 2 days. What is wrong with you? Roll that outro. Bye.